Hi, my name's Mark and welcome to the channel. Today I'm checking in to give you a progress report and update on my Kerr sweater designed by Rebecca Clow. I've got it on to try to show you what's happening with it, to give some updates about trial and error, what's working, what's not, and hopefully I'll get your opinion on things before I need to finish this garment. So if you're willing to lend me a bit of your advice, stick around and let's get into it. So I'll start just by showing you the sweater as is. I think the last time I talked about it on the channel, I had finished the color work and then I was plowing on with the body. I just had to finish the body and then get to the ribbing. And then of course you can see I still don't have sleeves. But I've paused. I've been in Shetland for the last week and we've been trying to film a lot. We've been pretty busy as tourists. So I haven't actually done much knitting, which seems like an awful shame. But fingers crossed as we move forward with the trip, I'll have a little bit more time to actually sit and knit, and we'll have more time on trains, etc. So here is the sweater currently. I'll take a step all the way back so you can see me. And I have the open neck where I'll come back to pick up the collar for the ribbing there. And then I don't have sleeves yet, but these are drop shoulder sleeves. So once it's blocked and it's not rolling in, it'll start a little bit further down on the arm. And then of course you can see the color work. And then past the color work, I had to guesstimate. I was on a train knitting away about a week ago, and I felt like I had enough length. So I tried it on the moving train. It was a packed train, so I didn't have a lot of space to get up in the aisle and really check it. So then I put it on hold and I started working on another project. And now that we're here, now that I have a little bit of dedicated time this morning, I thought I'll put it on barber cord. So I slipped all the stitches over onto my stitch saver and then tried it on properly. And I have maybe 1.5 inches of ribbing right now, and it's hitting, I think, where I like it to hit. I don't like a sweater to go too far past my bottom. I don't want it to hang too much, and I know when I block this, I'll get a little bit of length added. This is a non-superwash wool, so I'm not going to get as much length as I would get with a superwash merino, but I'll still probably get at least 1 inch, if not 1.5 inches to 2 inches of length when this is blocked. So I think I'm on target for the length, but here's one issue. Here's sort of the first thing I ran into that I thought, oh no, I can't finish this sweater on the trip. So I sat down with you to talk about what I was going to take on the trip. I started months in advance, and then I sat down to specifically show you everything I would pack. And I marked the needle sizes I needed. I marked the cord lengths, the notions, the printed parts of the pattern I would need. And then I got here and I realized I don't have the needles I need for the ribbing. So I'm working the body of this on a 4.5 millimeter needle, and I don't have anything smaller than that until I get to my Christmas stockings, which is like maybe a 2.5 millimeter. It's much smaller. So I thought, okay, what do I do? So I was on a moving train. I couldn't double check because my suitcases were packed up on the luggage rack, but I was pretty sure if I had smaller needles, they would be in the right place with all of my other needles zipped up as I showed you in what I thought was a very well prepared, organized packing video. So I only had the same needle size, which sometimes when you make sweaters or other objects, you'll use the same size needle for the ribbing, and it's not a big difference, it's not a big deal. But in this case, when I started the ribbing, and I'll show it up close here as I'm talking about it, the stitches looked too big. And I even tried to artificially tighten up my stitches, which I can sometimes do if I really think about it, but that's not the best way to be knitting. So I just wasn't happy with it. I think the stitches look a little too open, a little too holey, and I don't want the waistband of the sweater to have the possibility of sort of flapping around, I want it to cinch in just a little bit to kind of ground the sweater. So at this point, I think we were sort of in the middle of nowhere, just on trains back and forth for the day, and I thought, I'm not going to have a yarn shop to stop into for needles. And then I knew, once we get to Shetland, we have so much fiber here. A lot of people sell needles. I can buy needles at Jameson. I can buy needles at Jameson Smith. So I did. I went in on our first day and I bought a pair of needles, 4mm, so I can go down a size for the ribbing of this sweater. And I got a pair with a long enough cord that I can use them for the neck, for the wrists, and for the waistband. So that problem is solved, and now that I have some knitting time ahead of me with the ferry, with the trains coming up, I thought I'll get back into the sweater and I'll finish it. I was able to pick up a pair of Addy Classics, which seemed to be the choice, Addies at least, here on the island, and they're much more blunt than the needles I typically use, but it's for ribbing, it's not for lace, it's not for decreases or increases, so I'll be fine. And I love an aluminum or a stainless needle, so I was glad to find this, and now I have what I need. And I double checked, I do have everything else I need for the other projects I brought. So this was the first project that I sort of stuck to for the trip. I wanted to be working on it in Scotland because it's designed by Rebecca, a Scotland-based designer, and I just thought it made sense. A lot of you in the comments said, definitely do this sweater because it will represent where I am and it will be a good memory in tandem with these adventures I'm having. So I agree with that. I'm happy I've been working on this. The plan was that it would be finished a week ago. I thought I would finish it in Durham, but we had a lot of practicing. We had a lot of singing, and I wanted to make sure I was taking time to also enjoy being a tourist, and sometimes that means I can't lug out a sweater as I'm walking through the town or at every meal I have. As it gets bigger and bigger, it's a little harder to whip out versus the beginning of the process or a smaller project. And unfortunately, the smallest project I brought, my Christmas stockings, are probably the most involved because of all of the color work and the changes in the pattern every row. So for that, I really need to sit with my pattern. So in hindsight, maybe I should have brought 1 or 2 patterns that were completely mindless and small. But if you've been here before, you know I'm not really a sock knitter. I'm not really a hat wearer. So I like sweaters. I like sweaters, and I wanted to work on my Christmas stockings as well. So I think later on the trip, I'll have the opportunity to do that. And hopefully in the next week or two, I'll be able to share with you that I've finished this sweater. So we'll see. But before we get there, I also wanted to talk about my general impressions of this, the fit, the way everything's working. First of all, the color work I think is very fun. I love the pattern, I love the look, and I'm really happy with the colors that I picked for this. But I do kind of feel like the color work starts a little low on me, and part of that is probably my own fault. Because I'm a man, because I like to pay attention to the armhole depth on garments, because I never want the armholes to sit too far up into my armpits, for comfort and for the sake of the material. If it's all the way up there and it's getting more agitation, it could felt and it could be less comfortable to wear. So I always want to make sure I have an appropriate depth. And the color work for this does not start until you've reached the armhole depth and joined the work in the round. So I did add maybe 1 inch. And so if I had made no adjustments, the color work would sit maybe that much higher, which I think looks good. Instead, it's here, which is not a huge difference. And then, of course, the color work will happen on the arms. The only thing I'm not completely sold about is that after the color work ends, I don't have much fabric. So I feel like the top part of the sweater is longer than the bottom part under the color work. I feel like it's not maybe balanced enough for my physique, for my shape, for my height. I can't tell. I put this on just now. It's not blocked, so it'll look a bit different and it will fit. I'll have a little bit more ease once it's been blocked. And so I put it on, and Ned walked in and he said, "Oh, it looks really good. I like it." And I said, "Well, I'm not sure." And I showed him kind of the height difference. But he said he likes that it's not a yoke design that's right up at the top. So it's just different. I don't have a sweater like this. Once the color work on the arms is done, that'll add an element to it. And it'll give me a better idea. And of course, none of this will be final until I've blocked the sweater. I'm a big believer in blocking. I love how the stitches look. I love the finished element of it. And for me, it does affect the fit. So that's everything. That's my ramble this morning. We are packing up, getting ready to leave our Airbnb on Shetland. We still have the whole day to explore and enjoy, but it's a little bit sad. It's a little bit stressful to have to put everything for our 6-7 week trip back into the suitcases we have. So anyway, thank you for being here with me and putting up with a little bit of my ramblings. The last thing to say about the sweater is that because I started the ribbing, I will pull that back out and I'll put the stitches back on, or I'll put the stitches onto my new needles, the appropriate size for the ribbing, and then I am happy with the length, so I don't have to adjust anything there. I'll just restart the ribbing, do that for a few inches, bind off the body, and then I'll be ready to pick up a sleeve and hopefully be working on that on our upcoming train rides. All right, I hope I didn't leave anything super important out of this video. I think I've said everything I want to say about the progress of this sweater. It's been quick to knit. The colorwork chart was fun to do. It's very balanced, pretty easy to memorize your rows, except if you were here in my other video, you've heard that I have some mistakes on the back because I was talking to too many people and trying to do it, as you may have seen in pictures on Instagram, right before going into a service, or in moments where I was a little bit distracted. So that's a me thing. But the pattern's been great to work, and I'm excited to see what it will be like once the garment is completely finished. Before I go, I want to make sure to show you a little bit more of Shetland, maybe some things that I haven't shown yet on the channel by the time this video is coming out. We've had the best time here. We're already planning the next trip we could possibly take, and we're hoping we could come for quadruple the length. We're hoping we could come for a month to see more of the small islands off the mainland, and we really want to get to Fair Isle. We want to go see Marie and stay with her and learn about machine knitting and see her croft. So it seems like there's just so much to do. Everywhere we turn, there's something having to do with textiles, jewelry, art. There are so many creative people everywhere tucked away on the islands here in Shetland. So we've had the chance to meet a large handful of those creators, but of course in 4 days we don't have enough time to even scratch the surface of what's here. So we've been inspired. We've loved the scenery. We've had a mixture of weather, but mostly really beautiful, magnificent sunny days, and you're never far from the water. So if you're driving to the grocery store, if you're driving from point A to point B, you're guaranteed sort of breathtaking vistas. So I'll make sure to put some of what I'm talking about up here on the screen for you to see, and this may be your home. You may be a Shetlander, you may have been here before, or you may be getting excited to plan a trip or to watch a show and learn more about this beautiful place. So thank you so much for being here with me today. For those of you that are here on the channel for the knitting, I hope that this quenched your thirst to see a little bit of knitting, a little bit of update on this project. I know a lot of what we're posting currently on the channel is about travel and other things, some adjacent to knitting and some completely opposite, but I hope that's all right with you. I'm always so grateful to get to know you in the comments, and I'm so appreciative of anyone who chooses to spend 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour with me here on YouTube. So thanks for being here with me today. Make sure you're subscribed for future videos. Make sure you're following over on Instagram for pictures and updates every day during the trip. And as always, thanks for being here with me. happy knitting, happy crocheting, happy crafting to you, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Bye.